Brian Flores' defense had a dominant debut on Sunday, and maybe they even solved some of their long-term issues. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. My hashtag everydayers, my ride or dies, my diehards. I love you all very much. And if you are new here, perspective everydayer, hello and welcome. You can find the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. Just search out Locked On Vikings wherever you listen to your shows, and you will find this show Monday through Friday. You can also find, if you listen to podcasts on the SiriusXM app, you can also find live broadcasts of Vikings games by searching out Vikings on the SiriusXM app. You can also find the show on YouTube or Amazon Fire and Roku if you download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today on the show, we got some big news, big boy news. Harrison Phillips signs an extension, a 2-year deal. We'll go into the contract and kind of what that means. But it also segues into what I wanted to talk about all day anyways, which was Brian Flores' defensive performance. What a great performance and a lot of really great little nuggets from everybody. So we'll go over the D-line and how it played so well, how Andrew Van Ginkel knew how to get that pick six, how he knew what play was coming, and also a little bit to talk about Dallas Turner and how his day went, and suddenly everybody soured on him because he had a PFF grade. So we'll go into what I think happened there as well, and if we should be concerned about it or not. Not a lot of time to talk about offense today. We're going to focus on defense. If you want to learn about how Sam Darnold did, if you want to learn about how the interior offensive line did against Dexter Lawrence and how that problem was very much a problem, but a contained one, and the offense could still move the ball, and like strategically how you pull that off, all that'll be on patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL, as well as one about the defense, just kind of like generally. So let's start with the contract. Harrison Phillips signs a 2-year extension. He's in Minnesota now through 2026. It is a $19 million extension, worth up to $19 million extension. $13 million of it is guaranteed. I'm going to guess there's some incentive in there because of the up to language. Usually means that there's some kind of incentive, but sometimes that incentive is like, if you show up, it's like workout bonuses and stuff. So not necessarily like sack incentives or whatever. But no matter how you slice it, making $8.5 a year average is already low. And that's not to mention whatever contract nonsense they've got going on here. Looking at the way that the last few extensions have gone, I'm going to guess that we see void years on pretty much every contract the Vikings ink from here on out. It seems like they're big fans of that strategy of just spreading every contract over itself and just layering these contracts over each other like sedimentary rock. And because everything gets spread so thin and everything gets spread thin, eventually you're going to get to a point where void years start dropping off as much as void years start coming in. You're going to reach this like point of stability, and it seems like that's what they're after. But we'll see what kind of signing bonus there is and just how much money is spread out into future years and if there even are void years. So that will all impact the actual like cap amount. But 8.5 for a good nose tackle like Harrison Phillips feels kind of cheap, to be honest. It's a good value at the very most. You're going, hey, good value or good deal, right? But it seems like Harrison Phillips took a team-friendly deal here. He is so unbelievably worth that and more. Maybe that's a better way to put that, is that I just think that this guy is worth more than that. And that, I guess, segues into the kind of day that he had and the kind of day that a lot of people had. Harrison Phillips had a nigh unblockable day against the Giants, especially going up against that center, John Michael Schmitz. This is one, like in the world of the trenches right now in the NFL, this is a common thing is, oh my God, the nose tackle killed the center. You saw it, even more dramatically on the other side of the ball with Dexter Lawrence and Garrett Bradbury. But the nose tackle destroyed the center. Harrison Phillips splitting doubles, opening them like they were broken elevator doors, reaching or defeating reach blocks, denying reach blocks, when it's zone and the center wants to take that big bucket step and get around you, and you take it just as big of a step with them, because that's the way that they were handling this, is they were kind of feeling that motion. So there's a couple different ways to handle like a zone block. If you want to kind of step to the side and try to like move with that action and stay in the gap you're supposed to stay in, it's like not what the offense wants for you. And so you can sort of start to make disruptions that way just by being where the offense is, where you're not supposed to be. Or you can let them all flow past you and just go straight up field and this lag. So if you've ever heard the phrase a lagging nose tackle, that's what they mean. And you could do that as well. Which you do is very much a game plan decision on how quick you feel the offensive line is, how strong you feel the offensive line is, and just how you feel the best way to beat them is. And Harrison Phillips beat them in that way. And then just a lot of the other like good fundamentals and being a really strong player. It's what he always does, but this one in particular, he was a force of nature. Elsewhere on the defense, there were so many really good performances. Josh Metellus, Ivan Pace flying around all over the place. But what I really want to get into now, of course, because Andrew Van Ginkel, player of the game for sure, because he had that pick six, there's lore about this now, and we got to catch up on it. So after this game, interviews on the radio, there was a Jonathan Grenard interview on the radio on Wednesday morning or on Tuesday morning, where he said he felt bad for the Giants because they were getting booed so loud that the defense couldn't hear on third down, like as though it were like a home game. And they were like, man, that's rough. And Grenard in particular, because he played for some really, really rough Texans teams. Like he was in there in Houston for some of the bad years. He like kind of understands that like how disheartening that can be. And he's like, yeah, like I actually kind of felt bad for them, which comes off as this like super backhanded pity, passive aggressive thing. But I think he was just relating it to his own experience. But with the pick six itself, he said in that same interview, like, yeah, the whole building knew where that thing was going. It was so telegraphed. So how is it so telegraphed? How do we know how well, like so much that was going to happen? You can even see Van Ginkel, as he is lined up for that play, his head snaps over to the receiver and then back to watching the ball for the snap count. And then the receiver goes in motion. He snaps over again. So he's looking at something. What's he looking at? Well, he's looking at the formation. The Giants motioned into what's called a diamond formation. So they had 4 receivers on the same side of the field. I believe it was empty. I think there was no running back. But they had 4 receivers on the same side of the field. They had a bunch in the slot, like in where a slot receiver would usually be, and then a split out wide receiver. So what you got to know is that stinks. Not stinks that it's bad, but that smells fishy. That is extremely suspicious. Suspicious behavior. Okay, we found the imposter. That one was for the kids. Nobody runs a concept out of that. There's no offense that like wants you to have a bunch, but then also another player over there. And I think there's a good reason for that. Like if you have a bunch, the whole point is to have every receiver on that side on top of each other so they can all get their releases. If you put another receiver over there, you draw another cornerback over there, and it makes it easier for everybody else to handle the bunch because the corner can technically get involved depending on what routes get involved there, and it makes everybody's job easier. So if you're going to really run something out of a bunch, that bunch is probably going to be the only thing over there, maybe a tight end or something. But you're never going to just have another wide receiver split out wide over there in outer space. So you know he's going to motion somewhere. And when he motions into a diamond, where now you basically have a 4-man bunch all lined up in a diamond, that is like, what else are you going to do out of that but a screen? You're not going to have 4 switch releases or 4. You've already gotten the free release that you want with a 3-man bunch, and 3-man bunches are everywhere. When it's diamond, somebody is catching that ball at the line of scrimmage and the other 3 guys are blockers. You just know. So like that's what was going through Van Ginkel's head. And apparently that was going through the entire sideline's head. And I bet if you are like a true offensive guru, maybe you've called plays in your life, if you know, at high school football or whatever, you might have, or if you've played edge rusher in college and you're like used to that thought process, you might have been going, holy crap, that's a screen. For lay people like you and me, not as easy of a call, but for anybody with real practical experience, that is one of the easier play call guesses you're going to find. That's, I guess, the vibe that I'm getting the way that they're talking about this. So Van Ginkel sniffed it out, realized that he could get up and in it, and then he gets one hand out, and he just catches the ball just right where he can actually bring it in and catch the thing, and then, he's right there, so it's a touchdown. Beautiful play by Andrew Van Ginkel. So many other beautiful plays to talk about as well. But really what I want to talk about next is some of the issues that Flores dealt with last year and the solutions that he presented in this game that worked out really well, and sort of take this a different direction. It's really academically very interesting. And then I'm going to get to the Dallas Turner stuff as well. So a lot left to get to here on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hilariously, on FanDuel, the Vikings and Packers are now tied for NFC North Division odds. Tied for third, baby. Plus 550 a pop. If you are thinking Sam Darnold goes and leads the Vikings to the promised land, and by the promised land, I mean an NFC North title, then you can go gamble on it. At FanDuel, you can lay $5 down on that and forget about it, and you can get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. You can get that through September 22nd, so you're starting to run out of time here. But if you do it, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime, so don't worry about it. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com. Lay down $5 on anything and get a 3-week trial for free of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV. Moving right along here with the Locked On Vikings podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. When you're done here, go check me out on Locked On NFL. Had a very spicy discussion with Tyler Rowland, the madman over on Locked On NFL. He is taking you there in the mornings. A nice little wake up with some completely insane energy. That dude's unhinged. And they brought me on Wednesdays to chill him out. So go see my attempt to do that. And if you are looking for a more chill vibe, check out the PM show on Locked On NFL, the barbershop with Tony Wiggins. Let's go to a little bit more of this, the deep scheme stuff. This is what Wednesday is, by the way, on Locked On Vikings. We go deep. If you're into that, then you've come to the right place. So Hawk rules. This is what I want to talk about is Hawk rules. If you remember some of the Flores stuff from last year, that might trip a little alarm bell of oh yeah, Hawk rules. What was that? So the Hawk rules are blitz rules that Brian Flores in particular is famous for. These exist across a lot of the Belichick tree in coaching in the NFL, but Brian Flores is really synonymous with it. Did it in Miami, had it in New England before that. So this is his thing. And that is the rule set for when you see 8 guys on the line of scrimmage. So if it's a third down or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, all those players are on a line of scrimmage. Who blitzes and who doesn't last year and for, the last decade, that has been a rule set. Not okay, this time you go, and you go. It depends on what the offensive line does. The basic rule is that whoever the line slides towards, that guy falls. That guy falls back into coverage. So if the offensive line, and it's whoever the center blocks, right? If he goes to the left, then that player on the left will back off into coverage. If he goes to the right, then that player on the right will back off into coverage, essentially guaranteeing that the center is going to face somebody and then not be able to block them. And it means that they either need to get their hips swung around to the other side and help out over there, which is extraordinarily difficult athletically. Only, I think, 2 centers in the NFL could consistently make that play last year. And the Vikings didn't play one of them. The other one was Jason Kelce. Or the center is just not blocking anybody, and it's a blitz. So you're really likely to get somebody unblocked. And these Hawk blitzes almost always got an unblocked player. You had all kinds of costs in coverage, right? Holes in the zone, not that many players. Sometimes you'd have a D tackle in coverage and stuff, but you'd have an unblocked player almost all of the time. So it's really hard to make that stuff matter. The way that they made that stuff matter is by using the flats, which were very much a neglected place because you could always have somebody back way off, cover the deep sideline, and then rally and tackle. That's how the Vikings shut out the Raiders, for example. They did a great job of doing that. That's how the Bears, that Monday night game where the Bears didn't score any touchdowns, that was a defensive masterclass in covering those like perimeter plays. Unfortunately, the offense melted down, so they lost that game. But that's how Flores got some of the most just like disgusting performances from last year, was rallying into the flat, essentially inviting teams to run their entire offense through the bubble screen in the flat. That ain't an NFL offense. That's the Oregon Ducks, and it's not even good anymore. Problem was when teams started to figure out how to make that throw to the flat more lethal. This started in Cincinnati. They started throwing Joe Mixon, throw him the ball in the flat to the slide side. And essentially, they started targeting Harrison Phillips. He was the biggest and slowest guy on the team. He is the nose tackle. So you would slide toward him, making him the guy that goes into coverage, because now we understand the rules, so we know that we can manipulate it such that we put that guy in coverage. And then we're going to throw at the flat, making him the nearest defender. And now we have set up a situation where Joe Mixon is racing Harrison Phillips to the flat. They got a lot of good plays off of that. The Lions ran like a lot of the same identical plays in the whiteout game on Christmas Eve that the Vikings lost. The Packers did a whole bunch of that stuff and then built on it and found a way to get some deep shots and so on and so forth. It all fell apart. This is, if you remember, I was like, hey, I think Brian Flores got solved after that Cincinnati game. And it turned out that the next three opponents, which was two teams, but so those two teams, copy-paste game plan, won the game. So how did we fix this, right? This was the whole thing all offseason. What is Flores going to do? It's a very simple adjustment. And I never even tried to think about what I would do if I were the D coordinator. That is, I don't have nearly the breadth of knowledge required to even approach that problem. I think very few people in the world can. Maybe there's only one, and his name is Brian Flores. So here's what Flores did. He just changed the Hawk rules. He just made it a different guy. Now it's the guy away from the slide that drops. Or at least that's the way that their sim pressures worked against the Giants. If they slid toward Harrison Phillips, which you saw a lot of actually, the other guy would drop. Or maybe it's hard. I don't actually know the rule because I haven't seen enough plays. It could be that they were just more specific about who is dropping. Against the Giants, they did quite a bit of just I almost said the skills. Just the linebackers and D-backs will drop. Like if Josh Metellus and Ivan Pace are walked up, I think you call this a bounce. It's not really a pressure, but it's just a bounce where you just kind of walk up to the line and then you back off. If those players were bouncing, like then they would just back off. And it was that you could mess with the fronts. You could still threaten all of that stuff. But if they slid toward Harrison Phillips, no longer was Harrison Phillips the guy dropping. It was the other guy in the other A gap. And often that was Metellus or Pace. And then, hey, we trust that in coverage, right? That more or less fixes it because those guys can chase things to the flat. The problem is you lose some of the advantage of Hawk rules. The advantage of Hawk rules was that, like, look, if you have a 4-man line slide, you would often see those guys turn and see 2 pass rushers on a 6-man blitz. And the other guy in the coverage or the other guy in the line and maybe a running back would be responsible for 4 players. And you're like, oh my God, like what happened here? And you'd have unblocked chaos, quarterbacks going down everywhere, trying to find hot routes, throwing bad interceptions, strip sacks. You'd have the whole 9 yards. You saw it. You don't get that if you're backing off the guys away from the slide. If they can now slide toward Harrison Phillips and get, a 4-man wall versus 4 pass rushers, it's going to be a lot easier to set up that blitz. But here's to pick up that blitz. But here's the thing. It's a lot harder to prevent one-on-ones. So if somebody like Van Ginkel or Jonathan Grenard or Dallas Turner can win one-on-ones, then this can absolutely work even without that advantage. You don't need to generate unblocked players. You just need to get one-on-ones you can win. And the Vikings got a lot of sacks off of that. Maybe a stunt you throw in there or something like that, right? That's how Dallas Turner got his sack. That's how Patrick Jones got his too. He was unblocked on one of them, but the other one, lining up and winning against a guy. If you got guys that can line up and win, you don't have to commit so hard. You don't have to give up. You don't have to look at the offense and say, hey, if you throw to your running back in the flat, this thing's going for 15. You don't have to do that if you can just have someone win one-on-one. And the Vikings, now that they've kind of replaced their singular Danielle Hunter with three guys, none of whom are Danielle Hunter, but they can all win one-on-one sometimes, this is the way that you try to leverage that into an advantage. Dallas Turner is one of those guys. He got a PFF grade that is like a reddish, orangish shade of color. This has brought many people distress. I'm here to explain it. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's Locked On Vikings episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That is the formula for winning championships. And that is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether it's the family minivan that carries your 12 Quaker kids, or it's a nice sports car that you like just for the aesthetic of it, or, just a nice humble hybrid that gets you from point A to point B. You got to take care of that thing, and eBay Motors has 122 million parts, so you'll always find what you are looking for. And that is an eBay Motors guaranteed fit. With eBay Motors, your part will fit your ride the first time or your money back. That means that they'll take care of what your make and your model needs and what kind of part that there is. eBay Motors will guide you through all of that to make sure you get something that works for your car. So whatever it is you need, go to ebaymotors.com and keep your ride or die alive. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Oh, why did the guy that I got really excited about a sack have a PFF grade I didn't like? So I looked into this more. I got that question a whole bunch on Twitter Tuesday. I had a little rant yesterday about just the kind of generalities of PFF, and especially when there's only, I think, 35 snaps, only 6 coverage snaps, only 23 pass rush snaps, and how the math can get really wonky. And this is actually a really good example of how that math can get wonky and lead you down a road that you don't actually agree with. So what I want to do here is explain Dallas Turner's game and the moments of it that are overly impacting PFF grade. Because really the game that Dallas Turner had, he rotated it in and out, mostly with Andrew Van Ginkel, which is kind of what I expected, that Grenard would play all the snaps and that you kind of have a 50-50 with Turner and Van Ginkel. Or that Van Ginkel would back off the ball sometimes and Dallas Turner would come in or something like that. But that spot was basically 50-50. And he had his sack, and that was good. He had a couple of really nice pressure moments. PFF didn't count them all the same that I do, and that's fine. But otherwise unremarkable. Kind of did some dirty work, was, rushing the slide side. If you're rushing the slide side, a lot of times you just kind of got to compress that. You're going to get doubled. You're going to, you just kind of have to understand that, hey, they put a lot of resources over on my side, and now the other guy has a one-on-one, and he gets to win that, and we get to have a sack. Flores used Dallas Turner in a whole bunch of different ways. He backed off into coverage sometimes. He lined up in different places. He did that 4 edge rusher thing on third down, which he did a lot of last year, and it seems like he's going to do that more this year. He also rotated in Pat Jones and Jihad Ward. All of those guys played, and all of them had impacts. So why was Dallas Turner's PFF grade poor? And this is the problem I came up with last time, is that the grade only tells you a number. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't say he did bad and this is what he did bad. Not even in super broad terms. They have a pass rush grade and a run grade, but they didn't say, well, he got stopped up when he was rushing, and or he lost sight of the ball carrier and he missed a tackle. It doesn't tell you. You got to dig deeper to start to get those things. So one of the things that I know about PFF's formula is that they really hate you if you get a penalty. And they, of course, have every reason in the world to ding you really bad for a penalty. But you have to remember that we are dealing with a small sample here. We're dealing with 30 reps. So if you have 29 non-penalty reps and 1 penalty rep, that one penalty rep gets overrepresented. I mean, think about it if you expanded that out to an entire season. If you got one penalty every 30 reps, that means you'd be good for 2 flags a game. Could you imagine a player that got 2 flags a game every single game? You'd hate that guy. Oh my God, would that guy get benched, right? I think we can safely assume that we're not going to have a player that gets 2 penalties every single game. That's the rate that we're at, but to extrapolate that is wrong. But that's kind of what we do with our brains when we see that number in 43. We compare it to season grades. If somebody had a 43 on the season, that guy probably got benched. That guy was a bad player. And if it were because of penalty, like that all makes sense. But when we're looking at a single game grade, we have to understand that we're extrapolating sort of naturally to a much bigger sample than the one we're looking at. And it's going to overrepresent itself. These outliers are going to overrepresent themselves, especially in a small sample where you don't have lots and lots and lots of plays to kind of dilute it all out and get you back to something normal. That's why it doesn't normalize until 100, 200 reps in. Another thing that PFF does when they grade the trenches in particular is they have a sort of long-term solution to a problem that they were having many years ago, where if they saw a contain rush, for example, which a lot of times that was Dallas Turner's job, was to just get onto the outside shoulder of his blocker and make sure that Daniel Jones couldn't run outside. That's all you're supposed to do. You're not going to get the sack on that play. Your teammates are going to get the sack on that play, and they're going to get the sack on that play because when they win their rep, Daniel Jones can't run away because you're in the way, and they're going to go get the sack. That's going to happen. And actually, Andrew Van Ginkel's sack, I could argue, exactly happened because of that. Of Dallas Turner containing really well and actually doing a really great long arm on the tackle. So when you contain rush, PFF will give you a grade of 0.0. They'll say neutral rep. All you did was get out on the gap and you sat there and you did your job, and that's discipline, and then that's fine. But 0.0, it's like what you would give a player on a kneel down or something like that, right? Like, we're not really grading you on this play. So they give you a neutral. Over time, they are of the philosophy that neutral favors the offensive lineman. Because after all, it's the D lineman's job to make something happen. If nothing happens, the offensive lineman gets to say they did their job. So neutral favors the O lineman. So if you're an O lineman and you get an entire game of zeros, you're going to have a grade of like 90 because you didn't let anything up, right? 0 pressure, 0 sacks, 0 anything, right? If you get all just stalemate reps for an entire game, that's actually a phenomenal game. So they have this way of, over the long term, adding up all of your neutral reps to favor the O lineman. And the opposite is true of the D lineman. If you are a D lineman and everything you did was stalemated, you're going to have a poor grade all day long. So that's happening. It's a small sample, so it's happening a little bit, but that does lower his pass rush grade. But really what's killing him is that offsides penalty, which is, again, way overrepresented in a sample of 30 reps. And in coverage, there's one play where I thought Dallas Turner didn't get into his zone fast enough. Now, this is the last, the coverage for a guy like Dallas Turner is probably the last thing we care about. You got to be able to do it a little bit and get into your zone. And, we want you to get into that faster. But like, that's not the thing we're going to judge him on when all is said and done. We're not going to say, man, that guy got 10 sacks, but he was bad in coverage. Like, holy crap, who cares? He's an outside linebacker. Like, whatever. But PFF doesn't apply that context, because why would they? They are going for the cold, objective, calculated stats, right? So they're going to ding him for that, and it's one of his 6 reps. So I asked the question, if you're a corner and you play 60 coverage reps in a game, and 1 out of every 6 is bad, you're getting burned 10 different times in a game. Well, that's the worst game of your life. So you're going to get a really bad coverage grade for having 1 bad coverage snap out of 6. So all of these little things add up to give him a grade that's a 43. So my question to you, dear loving viewer, think about what you think of when you think of a player who got a PFF grade of 43. Take that idea, set it to the side. Now think of what you think of a player who had a mostly fine game of role playing and had like one or two mistakes. Are those the same idea? For me, they're not. And that's why I kind of think that this system is flawed. And note, at no point am I going in and saying those guys don't know what they're looking at. They have former coaches, former players looking at all this and ensuring, yeah, that was a contain rush. Yes, this does deserve a 0.0 grade. This does deserve a 0.5 grade. This play should be a plus or should be a minus. Like, they've got experienced people that know what they're doing, that are confirming all of that information. It's the system that information goes into that does things like kind of accidentally punish you for contain rushing. If your job is just to contain all day long, because let's say that we saw a mismatch. Let's say we think Jonathan Grenard against that guy's right tackle, that team's right tackle, is going to be a bloodbath all day long, and we want that to happen all day long. But this is an escapable quarterback, so Dallas Turner, you're on the other side here. You're going up against a very good tackle. We don't need you to beat him. We just need you to get on his outside shoulder and be there all day, and that's all you're going to do. You're not going to really pass rush at all. Okay, coach, that's the game plan. We're good to go there. PFF will look at Dallas Turner and say, bad game, stalemate it all day. I don't think that's really fair or representative. At least that's the way I understand the system to work. And over the long, and their response to these kinds of criticisms are usually that, okay, over the long term, those things will sort of get diluted by more signal in the actual sample. And that is true over the long term. But that means that 130 rep game is so easy to throw out and say, I don't really care about what the number on the website said, and actually come to our own conclusions. That's what I really want you to do. Come to your own conclusions. If that means that PFF is right sometimes and you're wrong because you came to your own conclusions, that should be fine because you get to learn something from that. So challenge yourself to be better. Take the crutches off. Take the training wheels off and get PFF out of your bookmarks. That's the way that I see it. I will talk to you all tomorrow. We're going to talk to Locked On 49ers for Crossover Thursday and get into 49ers mode. See y'all for that. And as always, Skol.